council members, this is still, we're in a break between the public safety meeting and the next committee. And something has come up that we need to deal with. So, Mr. Yoshimoto.
Madam Chair, I move to reconsider the vote on adjourning the meeting.
Is there a second to that? Second. Thank you. All in favor of reconsideration of the adjournment of the Public Safety and Mass Transit, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing no negative votes, we are now back in the Public Safety and Mass Transit Committee. Mr. Yoshimoto.
Okay, so I think technically, Madam Chair, just to be clear.
Hold on.
So now that we...
Hold on. Go ahead, Mr. Yoshimoto.
Now that we voted to reconsider, now we actually have to vote on the motion to adjourn again.
Okay. All those in favor of adjourning the Mass Transit and Public Safety meeting, which it just got backwards, please say aye. Hearing none. All opposed? No. Are there any ayes at all? We are voting on the adjournment motion from the last committee meeting. So the question is, do you want to adjourn the Public Safety and Mass Transit meeting? No. All in favor say aye. All opposed say no.
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 Okay.
The noes have it. We are now back in the Public Safety and Mass Transit meeting. Mr. Yoshimoto.
Okay, so Madam Chair, we have two other communications that are actually on the agenda that we did not address. So that's, well actually, 394 was addressed, was withdrawn by Ms. Willie, but technically speaking, she could still bring it back if she wanted to, I think, and we still have my communication 394.1.
All right, in deference to Ms. Willie, would you like to retract your withdrawal of communication 394?
Yes.
Okay, 394 is live on the floor. Hang on a second. Mr. Yoshimoto, would you have another comment on this?
Okay, so now so if she's going to make a motion to file her original communication 394, then I think it properly needs a second. Because you originally seconded the
yes,
first
and
time,
I can't as chair.
That. So she made the motion for 394.
All right, do we have a second on communication 394? Are we going to go through this? A second by Ms. Poindexter. Thank you, Ms. Poindexter. Now 394 is live on the floor. Hang on, Margaret. Okay. Mr. Yoshimoto.
And, Margaret, I want to just make this more concise. So if you don't mind, if I could also, supplement my communication to your communication, because it seemed like your communication, the second one, kind of took some of the things that I had in mind. Is that?
Yes, basically I incorporated all of what you had, although I changed the wording in terms of the safety of Papaya 1. I didn't quite phrase it like that. Okay. And then I took any other questions that other council members had raised during the discussions and put those in here. So they're coming from all of the issues that I heard council members bring up.
Okay, so so
you have permission, Mr. Yoshimoto.
Madam Chair, so in light of the fact that, we're not allowed to amend communications, I just want to make sure where we're at. So we're addressing Ms. Willie's communication and,
394.
394. And as we're talking about the formation of an ad hoc committee and determining its scope, what I suggest, Madam Chair, that we do is that as we're going along, we refine it to the best way that the committee or the council wants to do, and then we come up with some specific language. You know what I'm saying? So we're not amending the communication, but we're further determining, what we want to do exactly. Because I think, Ms. Willie, right here, what you have in 394 was your starting point, right? And what I was trying to do was just supplement that. But since we cannot amend, as we go along with your communication, if we can factor those things in.
Okay. Here, let me
I have a question.
All right. Go ahead and ask your question, but I have a protocol question. We're going to get the clerk up here in a second in a short recess. Go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to ask so I'm clear. So what my intent was from my 394 was to basically expand and include whatever other issues had come up, and that's why given the inflexibility of these vehicles, I did 394.9. Now we can still...
Okay, hold on. We got a protocol issue. Mr. Yoshimoto, let me comment on this. I have no problem with 394. I have no problem with other communications that, shall we say, supplement it. But the word supplement, I think we're playing semantics, okay? And I'm having an issue with that. So you have a comment on the semantics issue.
I have, yes. So what I was going to suggest is that we bring our legislative research branch head, John Henricks, to come forward and then explain to us what we need to do to form the ad hoc committee so that we're clear, so we know where we're going.
All right, Mr. Henricks, will you take to the testifiers table, please? Mr. Yoshimoto, when he's seated and he has identified himself on the microphone, go ahead, please. Margaret, we cut your...
John Henricks, Legislative Research Branch.
Okay, John, so basically where we are is we want to have a discussion on the formation of an ad hoc committee, and what we'd like to know is what is the first step that we need to do today, knowing what you've heard so far? Because right now we have Miss Willie's communication, and we have technically my communication that's on the agenda.
And another one as well, point 9.
Right.
My understanding of the process is those communications are informative. They provide notice that these were the potential topics and issues that an ad hoc committee, if established, may investigate. At this point, the chair of this committee, per our council rules, technically establishes the ad hoc committee by naming the members and assigning a leadership role as well. And another crucial factor in that is to describe the scope of what the committee would be investigating. Rather than just reference communications in that process, it's probably better to orally put forward the scope. Now, that's at your discretion how specific you want to be or how general and how lengthy you want to be in that process, understanding that when you do that today, it's a 3-meeting process, this being the first one, and then the ad hoc committee would be free to go ahead and do its work based upon the scope that's created today. So
Right.
That's the critical part when you describe that.
Right.
And again, how verbose you want to be, how general, how specific is up to this committee, and the chair would do that, describe the scope. And then the second meeting would be to present the findings, but not discuss it. And again, you guys are familiar, the third meeting would be to deliberate on the findings and basically dispose of the matter and close the ad hoc committee.
Okay, so the initial question, though, becomes, whether the council wants to form an ad hoc committee as compared, for example, to like a task force, right? So that's probably the first question that needs to be addressed, because in my recollection, when we formed ad hoc committees before, there was first a discussion, is this what we want to do? Right?
Certainly that is a very valid point of discussion if you even want to do it
Right.
at all.
As compared to a task force, because I know this issue has been kind of discussed both ways, and so that's like the first step.
Analogous perhaps to the real property tax task force that
which
we
did
currently...
in the past, right?
Sure,
Okay.
as a different option.
Okay, so Madam Chair, I just wanted to make that clear to council members that I think one of the first things we need to discuss is one, whether we want to form the ad hoc committee at the outset, because let me finish. Because that's the initial question, and once we get past that, then we can talk about the scope. Then if we get that far, then you can articulate, well, this is the scope, and we need to be careful too, because as you remember, Ms. Ford, in past, we don't want to get too general, because then we're all over the place. I think we need to be really careful how we define the scope. But I think those are the next 2 steps.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Yoshimoto. Ms. Willie.
Okay. Let me just say that wherever we go from here, the bill passed, and that's the foundation. So, I had a lot of concerns to me, especially for those who opposed the bill, saying whether I was really committed to do this ad hoc. And I felt that I was really doing it, as Lori Farrell said, that out of respectful dialogue, and that there was diversity, and yet how can we come together on the issues like from the big picture, the sustainability and resilience and stewardship. So, and and that's why I handed this out as a communication. But let me just say, going in terms of what form we are, that was the focus of our discussion back, whether it's September, August, September, and in listening to the Office of Corporation Counsel, what the different issues are, what was recommended, and so that's where we started from, and that was what we had been discussing, and that the basically at that point, the general persuasion from all the council members and specifically Corporation Counsel saying, I suggest you do it this way. And that was why then I went this way, and basically in terms of my 4.9 incorporated other issues so everyone could have some voice. So I do, and I felt that we could discuss this, and as you said, in terms of verbally go through this and refine it or cut out and add.
Ms. Willie, once we have a discussion on whether or not we're going to form a committee, and then we do form it, and we name the members who will be on that committee, then when we go into the scope, we can go through every single one of these
Yes.
and decide, do we want it on that agenda? And we can add things that may not
Yeah.
even be here. So we can do that. So let me address this
Okay,
other
can I
issue.
just finish in terms of what type of I have one more comment I'd like to make.
It better not be on anything.
It's nothing.
Okay,
It's nothing on
all
it.
right.
But I'm just saying, in terms of what form do we do, I think that the ad hoc committee sort of holds this matter with the council. We're the ones that make the final decisions and do the final vote, and that having the ad hoc sort of gives a specific directive of what we're doing and proceed. I think at one point, our chair said maybe we ought to just stay with these other issues as a full council. What is the formation?
Okay.
So I think that this is a good form, and I do think that it's important to go through the scope, and I don't think we're limited to right now exactly how this is worded. So.
No, we aren't. All right. Thank you, Ms. Willie. Let me comment, and John, I'm going to call you up here again. When we do a potential ad hoc committee, the protocol of how we do it is through a communication. It is not through a resolution, correct?
John Hendricks, Legislative Research Branch. It could take the form of a resolution.
Or could you have both simultaneously? A
Do the same
communication
thing?
and a resolution?
One or the other would be preferable, probably.
All right, okay. So we have a communication in front of us. Now, before we go any farther, sit tight in case other people have questions. We are now into the next committee, which is the Governmental Relations and Economic Development, and that is chaired by Mr. Onishi. So are there anybody in the audience in any location who is here to testify on the Governmental Relations and Economic Development? In North Kohala, anybody there to testify on the next committee?
Good morning, Chair. We do not have anyone for the next committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Waimea, anybody to testify on this next committee?
Good morning, Madam Chair. We have no one here to testify. Thank you.
Okay, Kona, anybody to testify on this next committee?
Good morning, Madam Chair. We have no testifiers for this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Ka'u, any testifiers for governmental relations?
Good morning, Madam Chair. We have no testifiers here in Ka'u.
Thank you. Pahoa?
Good morning, Madam Chair. We have no testifiers here in Pahoa.
Okay, that covers all the offices. So, we're here. Yeah. We have 5 testifiers for your committee? Okay, so, Mr. Onishi, you're the chair. And since this has gone kind of awry this morning, we might want to consider taking your recessing this meeting, going to your meeting, taking your testifiers, and then you have the choice of doing your committee or recessing it till later in the day. What would you prefer, sir?
I would rather just take my committee because I don't think mine's going to take too long.
Okay, and when is the next? 10:30 is the next meeting? Okay, then we'll recess. So I'm going to put Public Safety and Mass Transit in recess in deference to Mr. Onishi's committee, and we'll see what happens.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, do I need to name a time? And we'll come out of, this Public Safety and Mass Transit will come out of recess right after Mr. Onishi's committee is finished. Thank you.